What is a secret you will take to your grave? I'm a guy and my parents tried to set me up with an arranged marriage with a girl I don't know, so I told them I was gay just to get them off my back, and now they're trying to set me up with a dude. So I'm a 26-year-old Indian American male and I'm pretty straight. A lot of non-Indians seem to think that it's literally your parents who choose who you marry and that's that, but that's not really the case. Instead, it's more like your parents tap into their network of friends to find potential partners for you, and if you like each other's pictures then you get to meet in person, and then you decide whether or not you want to get married. So basically, your parents are Tinder and you get a meeting or two to decide whether or not you want to get married. It's not quite as bad as many of you think it is, but the whole process feels super rushed and I'd rather date someone for a while before I rush into a marriage. Anyways, my parents have recently been getting on my case about getting married. Apparently I'm getting too old. I didn't know 26 was considered too old, but I guess you learn something new every day. According to them, I need to settle down soon and start giving them some grandchildren. Basically every time I see them, they always have a new potential match for me, a picture of some new girl I've never seen before, and ask me if I'd be willing to meet or marry her. It's honestly super annoying, but I'm too non-confrontational to really put my foot down and say, I don't want an arranged marriage. After all, if I said that, there'd be an argument or at minimum some interrogation about why I don't want one. So I was thinking of ways I could get them to stop harassing me about getting married, and the idea popped up in my head. It would be a lot easier to just tell them I was gay than it was to explain why I didn't want an arranged marriage, and then later on I could find a girlfriend and tell my parents she totally turned me straight. My parents were fairly conservative but weren't the types to disown their kids for saying they were gay. So that's what I ended up doing last time I was visiting. They were showing me pictures of some girl and I just looked them dead in the eyes and said, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. It got really quiet and awkward after that, and after a couple seconds that felt like an eternity passed, they asked me if I was sure and I said yes. My mom told me they'd love me no matter what I do and to do what makes me happy. My dad was a lot more awkward and quiet, but later gave me a similar talk about how he was a bit uncomfortable with the idea, but recognizes that times are changing and I should do what makes me happy. I did feel kind of bad because of how genuine my parents seemed to respond to me, but I was happy with the results because they stopped giving me arranged marriage proposals. That is until last weekend. I visited them like usual and was greeted by my mom, who was more excited than usual. She sat me down and pulled out a binder. The contents of said binder? There were a bunch of pictures of guys overflowing from page to page. Apparently my parents had spent the last month or so looking for any and all gay Hindu Indian men who I could potentially marry. Oh my god. I guess I was in the same exact situation as before, but instead of being greeted with pictures of cute Indian girls, I get to see pictures of gay Indian dudes instead. My mom kind of pushed the binder into my hands and I lost my resolve to tell her that I wasn't serious. I decided to just play along and started going through the binder as if I was serious. Most of the dudes were unattractive as expected, but there was one on there who I legitimately thought was cuter and more feminine than the vast majority of girls I've seen. I told my mom I liked him, and she joked around asking me what the point of being gay is when I wanted a dude who looked like a girl anyways. I thought that was the end of that, but then she talked to his parents and we had a meeting set up over Zoom. Surprisingly, it went really well. Me and him have a bunch of interests in common and he seemed like a really nice person. So maybe something really could happen from all of this. In the end though, we both decided that we didn't want to rush into a marriage and wanted to do a dating trial run of sorts. I told my parents and expected them to be upset that I wasn't rushing into marriage, but surprisingly they were fine with it. My dad told me that as long as we have marriage as an eventual goal and don't get intimate before then, they didn't mind if we dated first. This whole situation could have been avoided if they had just told me that in the first place, but I'm really glad it ended up happening this way. The other guy lived in the same state as me, but he was a 4-hour drive away, so we've mostly just had Discord calls and spent time gaming together for the past few weeks. This Saturday we finally managed to meet up in person and have a date, and honestly I think I'm kind of in love. He's cuter than any girl I've ever met, but unlike most girls, he's actually into the same things I am. I really do like him and will probably ask him to marry me a couple months from now if nothing goes wrong.